The stage lights poured down, electronic beats echoing through the air, and out of the mist stepped a slender figure. That face, sharp yet delicate, eyes the color of pale sapphire that seemed to see right through the world, made the audience pause. This wasn't the fiery glamour of an American bombshell, nor the polished luxury of a French muse. It was something else entirely, refined, distant, and quietly powerful. At just 19, Jade Parfitt was already striding down the most prestigious runways from Paris to Milan, carrying with her a presence that fashion magazines described as beauty from another era. She was unlike any of the 90-second supermodels, no loud headlines, no scandal chasing the spotlight. Yet it was precisely this silence that made her magnetic, turning her into the muse of Alexander McQueen, John Galliano, and Jean-Paul Gaultier. But behind the Vogue covers and million-dollar campaigns, Jade's story was never just a pastel-tinted dream. It was the journey of a girl from the English countryside, swept into the relentless whirlpool of high fashion, a world where elegance often hides the unspoken truths of the dark side of fashion. Her rise would take her to dazzling heights, but also into the quiet, shadowed corners few ever see. Jade Parfitt was born on the 1st of June, 1978, in Kingston upon Thames, a quiet suburban town just outside London. When Jade was only a few years old, her family moved to Devon, a place of rolling green fields, windswept coastlines, and tiny villages tucked into the hills. Devon wasn't the kind of place where fashion stars were born. It was a land of farmers' markets, small-town festivals, and faces that never changed from one year to the next. Her family was neither wealthy nor struggling. Her parents were hardworking, grounded people who valued education and encouraged their children to explore the world. Jade was the youngest of 3, with 2 older brothers. From an early age, she stood out taller than most kids, with long, willowy arms and a swan-like neck that made her look like a living sculpture. But those very features also made her a target. Giraffe, that was the nickname other children gave her, sometimes in jest, sometimes with a sting. Her mother, a gentle and perceptive woman, shielded Jade from the worst of it. She encouraged her daughter to read, paint, and join after-school clubs that could nurture her confidence. Still, Jade often felt out of place, as though she didn't fully belong anywhere. It was a quiet kind of loneliness, the sort only sensitive souls can truly understand. Jade's childhood was filled with afternoon bike rides down country lanes, the scent of freshly cut grass drifting in the wind, and daydreams that hadn't yet taken shape. By her early teens, her height became impossible to ignore. At 13, she was already 5'20" 1.78 meter, a height that made adults stop and comment, and prompted more than a few people to suggest she try modeling. But Jade herself dismissed the idea. She imagined a normal career, perhaps as a teacher or a graphic designer. Yet, deep inside, there was a particular energy in Jade, one that photographers and designers would later spot instantly. It wasn't the loud, performative confidence so often prized in the industry. It was something quieter, yet magnetic. A way of being that made you want to look twice, an unspoken story behind her eyes. In time, that hidden energy would draw her far away from the sleepy streets of Devon, carrying her toward the bright, demanding runways of Paris, Milan, and New York, into the very heart of the era of the 90-second supermodels. It was a journey that would reveal not just glamour, but also the shifting shadows of the dark side of fashion. In 1993, when Jade was just 15 years old, an unexpected twist altered the course of her life forever. Her mother, who had always noticed the rare beauty in her daughter's features, decided to submit Jade's photograph to a nationwide model search run by the BBC. It was a televised contest meant to find fresh faces for the British fashion scene. At the time, Jade was still in secondary school, with no real belief that she'd be noticed. She thought of it as nothing more than a fun experience, a story to tell her friends later. Weeks passed, and then a letter arrived from London. Jade had made it to the finals. The news brought a rush of excitement mixed with disbelief. She had never set foot in the fashion world, never walked a runway, never posed for a professional camera. The only thing she carried with her were her striking height, her delicate features, and those mysterious blue eyes. On the day of the final in London, Jade stepped into the backstage area in a simple dress her mother had chosen. Around her, other contestants seemed polished and prepared, their hair sculpted, their lips painted in bold reds. Jade felt out of place, as though she had wandered into a world that wasn't meant for her. But when the lights came up and she walked onto the stage, everything shifted. Her swan-like neck, narrow shoulders, and fluid stride caught the panel's attention instantly. One photographer whispered, "This girl has the face of a new era." Jade won the competition. The prize was a modeling contract with one of London's top agencies. But what made this moment extraordinary was that the event was broadcast live on BBC, introducing Jade Parfitt to the entire nation overnight. Her family's reaction was mixed. Her mother was supportive, urging Jade to pursue the opportunity, while her father voiced concerns about the harsh, seductive nature of the industry. After long discussions, they agreed she could take modeling jobs during school holidays, balancing her education with this new, uncharted career. Her first professional photo shoot was a whirlwind: bright studio lights, the relentless click of the camera, and rapid-fire instructions from the photographer. Jade didn't know the technical jargon, but instinct guided her. She didn't pose in an exaggerated way. She simply stood there, letting her presence fill the frame. There was something in her gaze, an unspoken narrative, that made everyone on set stop for just a moment. Within months, the small-town girl from Devon was the face everyone wanted to book. The door to the elite world of 90-second supermodels had swung wide open. Yet along with the sparkle came the first glimpses of the dark side of fashion: contracts full of fine print, grueling schedules, and the subtle but constant pressure to be perfect. Jade was about to learn that beauty could open doors, but it could also come at a cost. In 1994, Jade Parfitt stepped into one of her very first fashion weeks, and it wasn't just any season. It was Paris Fashion Week, the holy ground of haute couture. The moment she walked backstage, she found herself surrounded by living legends: Naomi Campbell, Kate Moss, Linda Evangelista. For the 6-year-old girl from Devon, it was like stepping into a film she had only ever watched from afar. Her international runway debut came in the form of a dream, opening the Chanel show for Karl Lagerfeld. Dressed in a flowing white silk gown, pearls cascading at her neck, her golden hair swept into an elegant updo that revealed her swan-like neck, Jade emerged under the spotlights. The room fell silent for a beat before the cameras started flashing. By the next morning, headlines in Paris hailed her as Chanel's new Ethereal Muse, a title that would follow her for years. From that moment on, Jade's schedule was relentless. She became a familiar sight on the runways of Dior, Givenchy, Versace, Valentino. At each show, she transformed, sometimes a refined Parisian lady, sometimes a free-spirited bohemian, sometimes the embodiment of minimalism. Yet the constant thread was her poise, her quiet strength, and her elegance that never felt forced. Top photographers like Steven Meisel, Mario Testino, and Patrick de Marchelier sought her out. Meisel famously said, "Jade doesn't just wear the clothes, she tells their story." That quality made her the ideal choice for major campaigns, from Gucci to Yves Saint Laurent, where the image had to linger in the viewer's mind long after they'd turned the page. What made Jade stand out in the golden age of the 90-second supermodels was that her presence was never drowned out by the spectacle around her. Even when standing beside the most flamboyant names in fashion, she seemed to create a quiet space that belonged only to her, a still point in the whirlwind of glamour. The late 1992nd became her reign. She appeared on the covers of Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Elle, both in Europe and across the Atlantic. Each image revealed a different facet, sometimes icy and untouchable, sometimes warm and inviting, but always with that signature refinement. Work took her across the globe: New York, Milan, Tokyo, Paris. Every trip added to her tapestry of memories: the glittering hotel ballrooms, the backstage chaos of quick changes, The silent moments looking out at a city from a plane window. These were the years when Jade lived fully in the light of fame. But quietly, she was also learning how to hold on to herself in an industry that could so easily consume its stars. Beneath the shimmer, Jade understood the truth that many would only realize later. The dark side of fashion was always there, lurking just behind the beauty. But for now, she was still riding the crest of her career, a figure both timeless and untouchable. By the mid-1992nd, the fashion industry was intoxicated with the image of the sexy supermodel, voluminous hair, red lips, and curves that set runways ablaze. But Jade Parfitt chose an entirely different path. She didn't try to mold herself into a second Claudia Schiffer or Cindy Crawford. Instead, she preserved her natural golden hair, her porcelain skin, and her refined, almost aloof presence. Designers adored her for it. They saw in Jade a beauty that transcended passing trends, something eternal, as if she had stepped out of a Renaissance painting but somehow fit seamlessly into the modern runway. She didn't chase popularity by fitting into an existing mold. She created her own. Jade also became known for saying no. There were offers for provocative photo shoots that would have been impossible for most young models to turn down, but she declined if she felt the concept didn't align with her image. Once, she turned down a lingerie campaign whose hypersexualized concept clashed with her vision of elegance. The paycheck could have bought her an apartment in London, but Jade simply said, "I want to be remembered for my presence, not for how much skin I show." Not everyone approved. Some in the industry saw her as too picky, warning she was limiting her opportunities. But Jade knew her value and stood by her principles. It was this sense of self-worth that allowed her to maintain a strong image for years, avoiding many of the traps that claimed her peers in the world of 90-second supermodels. She was also one of the rare voices at the time to speak out about the body pressures in the modeling world. She recalled fittings where stylists told her to lose even more weight, despite her already slim frame. "They wanted us to be walking hangers," Jade once told a magazine. "But I'm a person, not a clothes rack." Her candor and integrity earned her respect from fellow models and turned her into a symbol of a thinking supermodel, someone whose worth wasn't defined by beauty alone, but by her ability to protect herself in an environment that often blurred boundaries. In an era where scandal could buy fame, Jade Parfitt chose to move slower but with intention, and that choice paid off. She remained on the scene longer than many contemporaries, not because she played the industry's game, but because she refused to. Her path was proof that even within the dark side of fashion, it was possible to survive if you had the courage to say no. As the 2002 began, the fashion landscape shifted almost overnight. The era of the 90-second supermodels was winding down, replaced by a wave of younger, cheaper faces who were willing to meet every demand without question. By then, Jade Parfitt was nearing 30, and she could feel the tide turning. The once-packed calendar began to thin, and the big money campaigns no longer arrived in a steady stream. But the decline wasn't solely due to shifting industry tastes. In 2004, Jade faced a deeply personal blow: the sudden death of a close friend in the fashion world. The loss forced her to reassess her life. Those years of constant travel, glamorous hotels, and dazzling parties, yet so little time to breathe. The glamour now seemed to come with an invisible weight. That same year, she discovered she was pregnant with her first child. The decision before her was stark: dive back into the relentless pace of the runway, or step away to focus on family. Jade chose the latter, a rare move for a model still in her prime. She retreated to London, appearing only occasionally in public, devoting herself to her son and to charitable causes. But stepping back came with a cost. To younger audiences, Jade became a faint name from the past, remembered vaguely or not at all. The media mentioned her only in passing, usually through rare event photos that inevitably drew comparisons to her golden years. The pressure, combined with the physical changes after childbirth, pushed Jade into a brief period of depression. In a rare interview, she admitted, Fashion is very good at celebrating you when you're at your peak, but it forgets you just as quickly once you step away from the light. Even so, Jade refused to disappear entirely. By 2010, she returned to the industry in a different role, hosting fashion programs and supporting charity projects focused on women's and children's health. The image of Jade now was no longer the cool, untouchable figure on the Vogue cover, but a woman who had weathered storms and learned to stand taller because of them. For those who had witnessed the golden age of the 90s Supermodels, her reappearance was bittersweet. It reminded them that no one could stay in the spotlight forever. And for Jade Parfitt, stepping away was not a failure, it was survival. In a business where the dark side of fashion had swallowed so many, she had chosen the one exit that allowed her to keep herself whole. Today, when people speak of Jade Parfitt, the fashion world remembers an emblem of grace and endurance. She was not just a face that helped define the age of the 90s Supermodels, but proof that a model could succeed without sacrificing her identity. Jade's legacy lies in her demonstration that beauty isn't solely about curves, sultry glances, or chasing trends. It's about poise, presence, and the ability to communicate emotion without a single word. She inspired a new generation of models who wanted to step into the industry without losing themselves to its demands or to the dark side of fashion. In a recent interview, when asked if she would ever return full-time to the runway, Jade simply smiled and said, "I had my moment, and it was beautiful. But life has so much more to offer." Perhaps that is her ultimate message. Fame is fleeting, but elegance and self-respect endure. And if the tall, willowy girl from Devon were to step under the runway lights again today, the audience would still recognize her instantly, for that presence has never faded.